I'm ready to slash and burn.
No quarter. I am going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another BattleBots Breakdown with myself and Ashley here on Outside of the Box, and we're going to be breaking down episodes 14 and 15, which are the last of the fight nights. So there is a lot of interesting things to talk about in these two episodes.
Yeah, I'm so ready, and I'm ready to talk about where we're gonna go next, because we are ready. We are tournament time. It's crazy. I'm so excited.
Yes, we are ready. So kicking off the episode 14 was, I know, a match that yeah, I know how you feel about it. We were all looking forward to Huge versus Starchild, and Huge ripped Starchild to pieces. It broke a light panel in the battle box amongst all of those things. And I mean, really, I think, for me, the thing that struck me most in this fight, as I'm sure it did a lot of people, is it just, for me, it shows the contrast between somebody who has what I consider more of a general purpose weapon, which is typically a spinner, versus something that is more of a precision weapon, where you really have to be in the right position and get the right hits for it to be effective. Like, there's not so much of that incidental contact that can happen. And I mean, like, Starchild is a brand new type of design. Like, there's never been anything like that done in BattleBots in the past, at least that I can think of, and it's gonna take some fine tuning.
Yeah, I mean, this one was hard for me because obviously, I stand with Omega. I love Starchild. I never wanted to see it go 0-4, but at the same time, I'm really thinking that Huge is gonna do really, really well in the tournament this year, and I love it. I've said it before, and I'll say it 100 times. I love to see Jonathan Schultz smiling with every single bit of everything that he has, and that team is just so incredible. So while it really was kind of a heartbreaker on one time, I am so proud of what the Huge team has accomplished this year. And not for nothing, it still went 3 minutes. So Starchild, although it got completely ripped apart and its armor was gone and everything, but you know what, it put on a show, and it's such a cool looking design. It's how do you let that go? How do you don't just forget about a robot like Starchild? So I really do hope that they come back, and I hope that they can dial it in and get those precision type of hits that they do need. But yeah, this match was all over the place for me.
I'm sure. But yes, I'm so happy for Jonathan. He's on my, I don't know, I probably have a list of 100 people at this point. They're my favorite people in combat robotics. He's definitely on my list. And I want to see him have success. So this was really good to see. And speaking of Omega Team, just in case anybody who's watching the YouTube stream is wondering, yes, Ashley and I are absolutely wearing the same Ripperoni shirt. So
yes,
it may have been
RobotsRuinMyLife.com.
exactly.
All the Omega gears there. It's super freaking comfortable. We are loving it. Yes. All day.
This may have been slightly planned in advance, but
only 20 minutes.
Only 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so we go from that to Ominous versus Shatter. And, Shatter definitely landed a couple of good hammer hits early. Ominous did end up doing some damage, but they never really looked, what I would consider super effective in that match. It ended up coming down to a judge's decision. And, obviously, happy to see Shatter get a win. It wasn't the prettiest win, but they got a win. So, that was good, because it would be terrible for them to have a winless season with one bot and then have, emulsifier not that would have been really sad.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely cool to see Bots FC get that win. And you know, it's funny, like the hammer, it can be so effective, like when they literally took a piece of the top armor with the robot and was just like, you don't need that anymore. Like so it can be effective and it can do well. And obviously we've seen it do well in the past. So I am super glad that they finished their season with a win. It is like really interesting to see two Omnis kind of go against each other, because like they said, like you really don't know which way either one is going to fully move. And once you're like a little bit off in your drive, like you're really have the ability to kind of be all over the place and not really get that control. So it's like cool to kind of see them go back and forth. But like I'm glad Shatter was finally able to deliver the hits that hammer like can deliver and like really get out with a win.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I mean, BattleBots has been doing this a lot this year, where, you know, setting these matchups of like two omni-wheeled robots, you know, something that you don't see, and that
huge
was
wheeled robots, like
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
like stuff that the fans really want to see. And I mean, it's such a shame with that match because, you know, I've said it before, Ominous is a freaking beautiful robot, and you know that like they just need to make it effective. Like it needs to be as effective as it is beautiful, and then it's going to do some amazing things.
Absolutely.
So that like again, in theory, like what should have been, I think, a much better match than it was Triton versus Horizon. You know, I was fully expecting that giant bar of Triton to just like start taking stuff out left and right. Like I expected absolute destruction, and it was more like mini bits of destruction here and there. Like it was very like kind of along the way. You know, Triton immediately did hit one of Horizon's discs, but then like Triton's weapon had problems spinning after that. It, you know, it really wasn't getting up to speed. They did end up, Triton ended up losing one side of its drive, but then they came back and managed to take out the other side of Horizon and got the KO. It was kind of all over the place. But, you know, like, again, really happy to see Brad and Shay get a win for the team. But, you know, it definitely wasn't the cleanest match that I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't. And it almost seemed like one of Horizon's discs never really fully got up to speed, or it was just so quick that Triton was able to get to it that it just was unfortunate, and you know, it never really got to show what it can do. But it is also cool too that like Triton was able to send them across the box at least a little bit and pop them up once to like really show how much power that freaking weapon has, because it's so incredible. Like I'm super glad that they ended up with like a 2-2 record. Like obviously, like we love Brad and Shay, like they're the best people ever. So it's good too to like be able to see those robots. Like they're really like not necessarily like destructive wise. Like yeah, they're doing the damage, but they're also like showing how much more durable their robots are, and like they are able to take the hits, and even though their drive went down, like they still were able to figure it out and get a knockout, which is just absolutely incredible to see.
Yes, for sure. So we go from that to Bloodsport versus Beta, and I think this is so fitting because we actually kind of talked about what led into this match, and what helped Beta be successful in this match was, you know, I was questioning like, why did they use that armor configuration against Black Dragon? Because that seems like a bad idea. And I mean, maybe in their mind they were like, we have a fairly good chance of losing this match anyway, so we might as well save this armor configuration for the bot that we know it's going to work against. And it definitely did. I mean, Beta was really effective early, not so much with the hammer in the early stages. It was more just controlling Bloodsport and slamming them into the wall, and they just stayed on them. So I think it was definitely a good decision to make sure that that armor was in full tact, because it worked fabulously versus Bloodsport in this match.
Yeah, it's so cool to see something be so effective, because obviously like Bloodsport can deliver power. It can throw hits. It can, you know, really get under those robots and send them flying. And Beta was just like, no, not today. I'm not playing your game today. Like, we're gonna play my game and I'm gonna control you. And that weapon is barely going to get up to speed for the entire 3 minutes. And he was just on him and stayed on him, and it was just so cool. And then like to be able to like get the win is just so awesome. And yeah, I really liked this match.
Yes. I mean, to be honest, it was one of the most impressive matches that I've ever seen Beta have. I mean, even in other wins of Betas that I've seen, I'm like, okay, like they have like, I'm not just like overly impressed, and they just really controlled that match so well. I mean, such good driving, good decisions, and yeah, I mean, they looked great.
Yeah, it's not often that you can deliver Bloodsport into the screws and like stop their weapon from moving. So it's super impressive.
Yes, absolutely. So then we have, one of my like kind of heartbreak matches, Mammoth versus Kraken. Because like I love Kraken so much. Matt and Sarah are amazing, and obviously like I love the Mammoth team too. And so it's like I don't want either of them to lose. But it had to happen. And I know that Kraken, the strategy seemed to be that they just kept going for the middle of Mammoth. And I mean, I don't know that I would have done that, because it's like, are you trying to, break the bar in the back? And I don't know that Kraken has the kind of power to do that. I'm not really sure. I would have probably tried to go for the wheels personally, but again, like I'm not sure if it was a maneuverability situation or what it was. And Mammoth, they were able to do some stuff, and you could just see Ricky's excitement, and that was great. But it also had to be super hard for the Kraken team to do this whole thing and change the robot and still go 0-4 despite that.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have very, very close friends on Team Mammoth, so I was super excited to see them take this. I do think like part of the MO for Kraken, and I could be wrong, obviously, like because they had the vertical spinner and they had the height on it, I think he was going underneath to try to get the weapon chain, because that weapon chain has been known to break in the past and is definitely like a torn ACL in Mammoth's side, like, so I think that might have been the strategy, because like I don't know if they would have been able to necessarily break the bar, but it was obviously, I loved it. Mammoth is fantastic. Like, Ricky just stayed squared up and he let Cody deliver those hits and just tell Kraken like, see you later, have a nice day. Like, and I'm so super pumped that Kraken was able, and like they were still able to deliver like a good match and show that like, yeah, even though it is a rebuilt robot, like they did come out and have a good showing, even though they went 0-4. Like the upgrades proved effective, just not at the right moments, which really stinks to see, because nobody wants to see Team Kraken go 0-4. That you love those types of people. So this, yeah, I get it. This was a hard one for sure.
Yes. So then we had Valkyrie versus Glitch, which again, like they're very similar designs. So I think that was part of the appeal there. And this match, for a lot of reasons, and I think a lot of people agree with that, really left a bad taste in my mouth because of the way that it was framed. Like on the production end, and what Chris and Kenny were talking about, like making it seem like Lucy wasn't being aggressive enough and all of this stuff, when like, dude, Valkyrie is hard to drive. Like it is really hard to drive, and this is, Lucy's not used to driving. She's getting used to driving, obviously, but like she doesn't tend to do it often.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. But like you have to think, Valkyrie did break Glitch's weapon in half, which is extremely impressive. And a lot of that like lack of aggression, though, is like we have seen many times where Glitches kind of being, a little bit wonky, and it looks like they're not doing much, and then people get absolutely obliterated by them because that weapon is so strong. Like you don't want to chance it. It is not a smart thing to chance it, especially when like it's the last match of the season. It's really important to at least get 2-2 so that you have a chance of getting into the tournament. Like that's just the fact of it. So Valkyrie ends up at 2-2, Glitch ends up at 0-4, which I'll be the first person that was completely shocked by that. But that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. This one was definitely interesting. I agree with you. I don't like how they basically said that Lucy wasn't doing her job, because I absolutely think that she was. And nobody wants to go weapon to weapon with Glitch. Like, I'm sorry, but that's scary. And when you're an undercutter like that, and we've seen it, the entire weapon can get ripped off. And so you don't want to go the rest of your 2 minutes or whatever long without a weapon. Like, that really stinks. So I think Lucy was being really deliberate in how she was driving during this. And I think that she was taking her shots and she was watching where she was going, because she knew at any second it could have flipped and gone the other way as soon as, while their weapon was still running. But to deliver the power in the weapon, even though she wasn't being aggressive, she still delivered a hit enough to break the bar. So maybe she didn't go back up and go full steam ahead and send Glitch flying like some other competitors might have. She still was able to deliver the damage and get those chunks and hits. And I would imagine that the side of Glitch probably didn't look so pretty after that match. So how do you say that when it's still working? Like, it, I understand.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Lucy is on the list of people. Like, if people come for Lucy, I'm gonna have things to say. So
yeah, when you have someone that's so nice and has worked so hard and has obviously done on other teams and become a captain, she's obviously still learning, and this is new to her. Everybody knows that driving is new to her. I would probably be the same way. I was super timid the first time I ever picked up a stick, because you just don't know. And at 250 pounds, that's intimidating. So I think overall it was fantastic. She gave them the back and forth. She did what she needed to do, and she got the win. So they finished at 2-2. So everybody should just stop.
Yes, exactly. And so the main event in that episode is one that, based on the editing the entire season, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a person that had already figured out that Riptide was going to beat Black Dragon, because they were literally talking the whole year about Black Dragon hasn't been knocked out and Black Dragon's gonna beat Bite Force's streak. We all knew that wasn't going to happen. So it was really no surprise at all when that's exactly what happened. I mean, I will, as much as it pains me, I will give kudos to Riptide for it really was a clean match. They just stayed on Black Dragon. It was a clean match. There were no shenanigans. There were no shenanigans after the match. Everything that was said was fine, for a change.
Yes, for the first time.
So, hey, they won. They went 4-0. They deserve some level of credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while the person behind the robot isn't necessarily the most personable all of the time, they still built a powerful machine. And when you have a team like Black Dragon that has that force, you know it's going to be really hard to beat. But you know what? Kudos to you. You did it, and you did it in a way that didn't offend a super lot of people like you did a couple matches ago. So good on you for maybe learning a little bit about yourself, and congratulations on getting a huge win and breaking that streak. It is what it is. I still love Team Black Dragon. I think that robot is still incredible, and it's obviously, I mean, we might see this matchup again. You never really know. Anything can happen in the brackets. So we'll just see what happens going forward.
That is true. You never really know. So yeah, I mean, that wraps up episode 14. So we can get into the most recent episode, which was the final fight nights. And the first match that we started off with was Lucky versus Cobalt. So I've heard from people that were there that this was like the loudest explosion that they've ever heard. Now, I'll admit though, like seeing it on TV, it was a big hit, but I mean, I would have expected a giant ball of fire. We didn't quite get that, but like there's just batteries that are kind of smoking on the floor. It was a big hit, and I mean, I think that was a statement win for the Cobalt team, to say like, hey, we are really good and we deserve to be up there in the tournament seating. So really big win, and I mean, like, there wasn't a whole lot that Lucky could do.
No, unfortunately not. And like, obviously I've been a big fan of Lucky this season. I was super pumped for them to be at 3-0. I didn't know if 4-0 was possible. Like, you always hope, because you never know like who's going to get the ground game, and that's really where it comes down to. And for Cobalt to just get underneath them and pop them up so quickly, as soon as it like started, I was like, oh, that's not good. Like, that is not gonna end well. And to get that battery so perfectly like clean out of the robot was absolutely like, ugh. I mean, I've been there, I've seen that. My batteries have also smoked in the middle of cages, so like, I feel for you, Lucky. I get it. But yeah, absolutely, Cobalt is menacing and incredible, and just that hit was wow.
Yeah, and I mean, they showed, the clip of Mark going over the robot afterwards, and he's like, we've never been breached like this.
Ever. It's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, so definitely a statement win there. Then we had Blip versus Banshee, which, battle of the flippers, the newer flippers. And I did think it was interesting, because even Chris and Kenny were talking about like that Blip had put that thing on the front of the flipper, and it didn't really seem to be helping them. They were able to get in there and get some flips regardless, and I thought that was great to see them be able to do that. It was a rough match for Banshee. I think that Banshee has a lot of potential. BattleBots needs to have more flippers, so I want to see them get in there, work on it, bring it back, and have it be better. But good on Blip. They really needed that win, I think, to get into the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like, we saw Banshee come out like super strong, so you really never like know going into a match like who could win, because both have obviously done well in the past and been effective in their own right. So, and there were definite times that I got nervous for Blip, because it seemed like the wedgelets were almost like too low, and they kept getting stuck on the floor, and that's like got to be super nerve-wracking as a driver, because you're like, uh-oh, like, now what? But at the same time, some of them seemed like they were popping off pretty easily. So I don't know if that's like in the design that it just doesn't matter, like goodbye, because it helps them not get as stuck. So I thought that was like kind of interesting, but it was like, I love the Blip and Tantrum like duo. I think they're both phenomenal robots. So like, I'm super glad that Aaron was like able to get in there and be that great aggressive driver and really like show that control, and never really give David that space to kind of maneuver and be where he needed to be to deliver that like type of aggression. So it was definitely, I love the like flipper on flipper and stuff like that, like, because it's always cool to see like who is going to come out on top, and like who has a little bit more of an effective game that's going to put them a little bit better above the rest.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I don't want to say that match came down to experience, because David obviously is very experienced as well. But I mean, like, Blip's had a year in like as a bot, so who knows? Like that could have been the difference there. So I was so excited for Death Roll versus Monsoon, two of my very favorite robots and like favorite people. Like I just love both of those teams so much.
I was
And
wondering how you were feeling about this one.
I know. I was just like, oh my God. The only disappointment for me is that I really hoped that it would like go the full 3 minutes and it would just be an all-out slugfest. You know, I really wanted to see more action because they're both really capable of that. I really have to give credit to Tom here because like just like precision work, getting in the right spot, getting the hits on death roll that they needed to get, and like having the presence of mind to back off when they had to back off. Because again, death roll is not a robot that you want to be like, I'm just going to get up all in that weapon, because you never know what's going to happen. It doesn't matter if the robot's moving or not. If that weapon's going like and you hit it the wrong way, you're going to go flying across the box. So like just really good decisions by Team Monsoon in that match. And I, although I was sad for death roll, it was also like part of me thinking, well, this is good because this probably guarantees that both teams get into the tournament now, which is ultimately what I would want to see happen. So, I think that was the best possible result that could have happened.
That's hilarious. I love that. And totally true at the same time. So yeah, I think Monsoon, like I love the weapon, I love everything, and they definitely made super smart decisions in this match, and they were able to, they knew that they couldn't really go weapon to weapon, so they went weapon to side of weapon and like sent death roll back flying. And then I wonder if it was like stuck, if the drive went down, because they were like really backed up into that wall. So but the weapon, they left it on, and they were just like, okay, you want to play this game, then I'm gonna continue to be the scary robot that I can be and make you come at me and see if you're gonna take that chance or if you're gonna back off and make that smart decision. And obviously they backed off and made that smart decision and got the huge KO, which is fantastic. But I would have liked to see a little bit more, because there's a lot of cool things that could have happened. I think it would have been pretty crazy.
Yes, exactly. I think the only thing that frustrates me about this match is because of, what I've talked about before after the Whiplash match, that Monsoon is so close. Like the two matches they lost were so close that they could be undefeated right now. They could be 4-0, and this would be like a very different situation. So it's like, it hurts my heart to know that they were that close to being undefeated and like they ended up 2-2. But it's what it is, and we're just gonna have to roll with that. I love Team Monsoon. Sorry, I just love
they
them
deserve
so
all the love. It's totally fine.
I know.
Totally fine.
So speaking of Whiplash, then the next match was Tantrum versus Whiplash. And I will say, I don't think there's a lot of us that before the season started would have been like, yeah, going into the last fight night, both Tantrum and Whiplash are absolutely going to be 1 and 2. Like, I don't think anybody would have thought that. And it's like, how does this happen? And it's like either way, you don't want to see either of those teams be in a position where they potentially don't wind up in the tournament, because like I can't envision a round of 32 without either of those teams. But one of them had to lose, and like Whiplash, I think they really turned it around at the end of the season. It started off rough for them, and I think that they figured out what they needed to do, and they really were able to turn it around. And they got in there, got Tantrum flipped. Tantrum couldn't get over, and that's all she wrote. So it's, again, like kind of a bittersweet thing, but like good on Whiplash for turning the season around.
Yeah, absolutely. Whiplash came out and he knew that he needed the win, and he knew that he was up against a tough opponent. And obviously, like, Tantrum is a scary robot. They're a championship robot, even though, yeah, they rebuilt and obviously there's bugs. Like, it still comes from a team of really, really smart, effective builders. So expect to hold them to that high level and see that performance out of them and not have the season that they did, which is really kind of stinks. Like, I definitely never would have predicted anything like this sitting at the last episode before the round of 32 for sure, you know? So but the Vasquezes are fantastic. Like, I love Whiplash. So, like, I'm so super pumped that he was able to turn it around and, like, really be effective. He's obviously such a strong driver and super good at what he does. So, he was getting in those spots and knew exactly where he needed to be. And he pulled the trigger to get them flipped right at the right time. So, like, big shout out to Matt and Whiplash. Like, I'm super glad they finished on a high note.
Yes, 100%. So then we have a match that, like, something happened that I did not expect to happen at all. And this was Hijinks versus Switchback. And, you know, again, like, two teams that really, you know, need to have a win and things like that. And I mean, Switchback's they've definitely looked better than they did last season. You could tell that they've made improvements to that robot. And I know Hijinks had high hopes for what they would be able to do this season. And, you know, Switchback got in there and I was just like, oh, you know, this is a good fight and it's, you know, whatever. And then Switchback got a hit on Hijinks that sent Hijinks's weapon flying across the box. And I'm just like, what is going on right now? I mean, that was like probably the hit of like Switchback's entire time in BattleBots. It was incredible.
Yeah, Switchback is so powerful. Like, holy moly. The fact that they were able to get Hijinks upside down so quickly, I think is really what worked in their favor, because I think at that point Hijinks's weapon was spinning so far that they were still able to get the bot under and then deliver the hit on top without being affected by Hijinks's weapon at all. And that's kind of why we saw it go flying. No one ever wants to see their weapon sheared off. So, like, that's never a fun moment for anybody. And, like, Jen's face was, like, absolutely priceless. Like, oh, like, that, wow, okay, that just happened to my robot. Like, what the heck? But Switchback is looking fantastic. They've had some super good matches. So I'm really excited to see how they do in the tournament for sure.
Yes. And so we go from that to the, you know, the exhibition match, which was Slammo versus Double Tap. I know you and I both have some feelings about the editing, because don't be mean to Craig Danby, BattleBots. Don't be mean to him. He's a nice person.
The nicest person.
The nicest person. You know, like, I think that had half of Slammo's drive not gone down, I think that it would have been a different match. I mean, it also admittedly was very difficult because Double Tap is like an awkwardly big robot, and so kind of hard to really get that suplex situation on them. I mean, not that Craig tried really hard, it just wasn't working. But I mean, like, Double Tap's weapon for the most part wasn't very effective in that match. It just really came down to control, and like, they had full drive and Slammo didn't, and that's what it came down to. But seriously, don't be mean to Craig Danby.
Like, just stop. Like, as soon as I saw the screen go half, I was like, oh, we're not. Like, we're not doing this, BattleBots. Like, no, you did it during Shredded already. Why? Why are you doing this to the two nicest people on, like, the face of BattleBots? Like, I don't understand. Don't do that to me. Like, come on. Yeah, no. I was enraged.
Well, I was like, who even won that match? Like, they said the judge's decision like so quick that I didn't even hear. I'm like, who won? Did they even say who? Like, I'm sitting there like, what is going on?
Yeah, that was not fun. It was, and like, Craig had the control in the beginning of the match. He literally like had Double Tap squeezed, even in like the oddest freaking parts, but then to see it go, the drive go down and him to start crab walking backwards, I was like, oh shoot. Like, no, damn it, that really stinks, because I felt like he had the control and I felt like he was the one that was like pushing them into the corner. And obviously their weapon wasn't really spinning, and it definitely wasn't spinning at the speed it was supposed to spin. So, yeah, no, I was not a fan.
Mark my words, Craig Danby's gonna win a giant nut. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but he's gonna do it.
We stand with you, Craig.
So yeah, we went from that match to the match that everybody's been waiting for all season, the rematch of Minotaur versus Witch Doctor. And I mean, like, I have to admit, it wasn't everything that I had hoped for and more. You know, I expected this back and forth slugfest the whole time. And I mean, the first half of the match certainly delivered on that. Like, Minotaur was grinding against Witch Doctor, and I'm like, yes. And you know, then Witch Doctor got a couple of really big hits on Minotaur. Like, it was so good. And then the back half of the match, they were just kind of like, eh. So it was like, it's good, you know, it was good. Like, I was happy, and Minotaur won, and of course that makes me happy, but I'm just like, it could have been more exciting, but like, it was still, you know, hopefully this can put everything to bed and people can stop having this big debate or whatever. Like, I saw a couple people say things, and I'm like, I truly believe that if Witch Doctor felt like there was any chance that they should have won that match, they would have used their appeal. Like, I don't think that there's a universe where they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, you don't sit that at the very last match going into the tournament, vying for the #1 seed, and not challenge if you don't agree. Like, there's no way. I mean, I don't think in any situation, if they thought that they had that, even knowing that they would maybe lose it for the tournament, like, no, if you know where you deserve to be, like, you're gonna fight for it. So like, yeah, and everything that Marco said after the match was absolutely adorable. Like, you just want to give Marco like a big hug.
I know,
like,
exactly.
you know, and it was really like, it really shows the type of community and the people that are within the sport, like at the core of the sport. And they are both freaking incredible robots. And like, obviously, like, everybody wants to see them go 3 minutes and go weapon to weapon for 3 minutes. So I'm honestly shocked the match didn't end in a KO. Like, that was fully what I was expecting, was like Daniel Freitas to just go ham, not let up, and just not like KO. But it goes to show like how powerful Witch Doctor is and how much of a durable machine that they have built, and it is able to go head to head. Like, those are some of the best bots out there with some of the best drivers and teams out there. Like, you don't get better than that in this sport.
Yes. And like you said, with what Marco said, I mean, I think that was great. Like, that's something that fans, they really need to listen to the builders and what the builders are saying. Like, they're creating this animosity where it doesn't actually exist. Like, the teams don't feel it towards each other. So like, no one should be hating on Minotaur or Witch Doctor for anything that happened with that match, because it had nothing to do with the teams. Like, if you want to disagree with what the referees did, if you want to disagree with the judge's decision, cool. Like, you can do any of that. But, you know, things happened the way that they did. And honestly, like, I'm here for it, because I think that what happened last year caused the Minotaur team to go and like make the best version of Minotaur that we've ever seen this year. And it's been great to see. Like, sometimes that motivation helps you just improve and be stronger. So there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's going to look back at their previous season and see, like, where did we not do so well? Where did we, quote unquote, fail? Like, what can we have to go up against that same competitor who is also back at home fixing their robot? Like, what do I want to make sure is completely dialed in and perfect, so that if I'm given that opportunity again, I'm able to be that top guy?
Yes, exactly. And so after the matches, we had the much anticipated bracket reveal, and it's so funny because I've seen a different fan feedback and stuff like that about who's seated in certain places or who got left out. And for the most part, with like maybe only a couple of exceptions, I went through everything and I'm like, no, actually, I think that it's about right. Because when you look at things, you can't just look at what a record is. You can't just look at strength of schedule. Like it's everything combined. So, you could say, oh, this team's 4-0. Well, why weren't they higher than this team that was 3-1? Well, if the team that's 3-1 had a really strong schedule and like the one loss that they had was against a really good team, then it can change the way that seeding looks. So, I mean, all of these things are taken into consideration. And if you're truly the best robot in the field, it doesn't matter where you're seated. Like you have to fight a lot of these teams anyways to get to the giant nut. So like, sure, easier path maybe, but you never know. I mean, look at, previous tournament where Hydra was seated at 32. Doesn't freaking matter. Like if you're a good robot, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it definitely, like, it's always like encouraging when builders are like, it really doesn't matter where we're at, because they know it doesn't really matter where they're at. Like, yeah, okay, but like the 32nd ranked robot is Fusion. Like we've seen Fusion pull out some big wins that they're not necessarily expected to have. So even though everybody's ranked and everybody has their matchups, like there's so many of these that could go either way based on like the two robots, based on the two drivers. Like it really can come down to like little itty bitty things, and you never know, like ever. So you just got to dial your robot in, be prepared for the best of the best, and like get ready to go.
Yes, exactly. Because you brought up Fusion. Fusion almost beat Witch Doctor. Like you have to consider they almost beat. That's the only reason why I think that they're even in the round of 32 is because they're 1-3, yes, but they almost beat Witch Doctor. Now, do I think that they're going to beat Minotaur? No, I don't.
Sorry, Reese.
Yeah, sorry, Reese. I don't really foresee that happening. But like you never know with some of these matches. Looking kind of through the field, like obviously Minotaur, not surprised as the #1 seed. I knew if they went 4-0, that is exactly where they would be. They had a very strong schedule overall. People can say free shipping, whatever they want. Gary Jin is one of the best drivers and builders ever. Ever.
Yes.
So that's not an easy match, despite their record. But Riptide at #2, again, it's not a surprise because all 4 of their wins were KOs. Now, the reason why they're not #1 instead of Minotaur, strength of schedule. You're knocking out Captain Shredderator. Again, no shade to Captain Shredderator, but that we're talking about 2 different things here. So like that's gonna hurt your seeding because you fought, a bot that didn't make the tournament, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anybody, but and then you have like, but like you look at the bracket and you're like, all right, like there's an endgame and a tantrum in the first round. Like, let's go. Those are 2 championship robots, and one of them is gonna go home very early.
Yes.
So like anything is possible. And some of these matchups are absolutely insane. And like that's the first match. Like so like if you're not looking at the numbers and you're just looking at the robots, like, oh my gosh, like Copperhead Rotator, let's go. Like I'm so ready to get into these like big fights.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think a couple that stick out to me, I think Sawblaze and Blip is going to be interesting because if we're talking about BattleBots as Pokemon, Sawblaze type is typically weak to Flipper type. But like he obviously fought Hydra, and no doubt, knowing JMO, learned lessons from that match, and I'm sure is going to have a very strong plan for Blip. So, like, you know, that's going to be an interesting one. And I also think Ripperoni versus Black Dragon.
Yeah.
Just what do you put on Brazilian pizza? Like, I'm really curious to see what that ingredient list looks like on the box. You know.
Oh, I hope it doesn't say Lucky Ducky.
I was just thinking that. Let's not cook the duck. We're not gonna cook the duck. Yeah, so I mean, like, I think that's gonna be interesting, and I think Claw Viper versus Mad Catter, like, that's another one that I think could be really interesting, because you have really good drivers and, you know, fast robots, and like
lots of speed in that match.
Lots of speed.
It's gonna
Exactly.
be pretty crazy.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm not gonna get like too into predictions yet, because we'll see. I may or may not do a predictions episode, which I will asterisk with. After I kind of look through everything, I'm like, I could totally do a predictions for the first round, because I don't remember who won like most of these matches in the first round. So it's pretty easy for me, because I truly don't know. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so much excitement to come. 4 weeks of tournament. We will have 2 more BattleBots breakdowns for this season, and then we'll have to wait until whenever the Golden Bolt Slugfest stuff happens, and we'll be talking about that. So anything else to add for these episodes, Ashley?
No, I think we covered it. I am like ready for the tournament. I'm ready for these fights. I'm ready to see who comes out on top. I'm ready to see myself on TV. No, I'm totally
Exactly.
look for me in the milk tank shirt. I'm ready. Let's go.
Look for me in, I don't know, whatever shirt I happen to be wearing. I was there for 3 days. I don't know what shirt I was wearing. So but yes, so exciting stuff to come. Keep watching, like, subscribe, and just throwing out there, in case people haven't seen, I now have the audio version of this show up on pretty much all of the major platforms, including Apple, which was a very huge work in progress, but I finally made it happen. And Outside of the Box now has a Discord, so if you want to join the Discord and chat about the show, please let me know and I can send you an invite. But it's fun. There's only cool people in there, so it's great. But we will see you next time on the show.